Now, let's move on to our second chapter, the 5 fundamental truths about navigating the American healthcare system. I listed 10 surprising facts in chapter number 1, and that led me to crystallize these 5 fundamental truths. And I also must add, I am not alone in this synthesis. I found a great article or great post in Reddit by someone named nightmare underscore topic in subreddit called Constipation Advice. That was really amazing. And I'm taking inspiration from that as well to create this video about 5 fundamental truths. Here's a brief overview. Number one is primary care doctor has very limited knowledge about digestive disorder. Number two, how the gastroenterologist may not be the right specialist that you need. Number three, navigating the US healthcare system is like being a MMA fighter. Number four, insurance companies have incentive to say no and say experimental. And number five, your digestive health has a rhythm. Understand it. And let's go one by one and understand what we can do about it after understanding the fundamental truths. Let's start with number one, talking about primary care doctors. Primary care doctors are usually general practitioners. The word is general, hence, they are not specialized in any particular condition. However, it's a good point to start with them, but with the right expectation. Initially, when I started, my expectation was my primary care doctor would know more about my chronic constipation. But as the name general suggests, they have very broad idea, not a specialized idea. So their job primary is to run basic tests, ask few questions, and navigate to the specialist. So having a clear expectation from the general practitioner is absolutely important. And expectation is that the doctor has broad ideas, not specific ideas. The doctor is not the specialist. He or she is a generalist. So that sets the right expectation. Number two, let's talk about specialist. After I went to my primary care doctor, he referred me to a gastroenterologist. And at that point in time, I made a mistake. I didn't ask what his specific specialty was. Because now I know even the gastroenterologists have different specialties. For example, if you need a gut motility expert and your gastroenterologist is an expert in liver diseases, then it's a mismatch between what you need and what your specialist is. So, lesson for me is I needed to ask, but I did not. But you don't have to make the same mistake. Always ask what the gastroenterologist specialty is and make sure it matches with your needs. Third fundamental truth that I learned is that you got to fight for your health. When I started visiting my GP and my gastroenterologist, I submitted myself into them, hoping that they would understand more about my healthcare, or understand my more disease, and help me navigate and give me a right treatment and diagnosis. But what I learned was it's me who have to fight for it. I have to fight, be assertive. I have to demand better care. And I have to ask my own questions and specific, very targeted questions. I have to be an expert in my own disease and know more about my disease than my doctors have. And also learn to settle not for a subpar treatment or care, but demand better care. And when I hear no for test, no for this diseases, I have to really fight. Therefore, my suggestions or from my experience, I think we deserve better healthcare. And for that, it's absolutely necessary to fight like an MMA fighter, elbow it, punch it, kick it, lock it, whatever we can do, we must do it for our health. The fourth fundamental truth is that insurance companies have the incentive to say no and label everything as experimental so that they can charge you more. There is a video by South Park, and they had a very hilarious video. The title is Navigating the American Healthcare System. And one of the characters goes to the insurance companies and asks whether it's covered or not. And the default answer is no, even before the person searches or queries anywhere else. And upon forcing by the character, then the insurance company employee calls someone and still says no. And that says the very funny sentence. Who do you call? My medical director. What did he say? No. The doctor's job is to say no. Yes, that's exactly true. The insurance companies have incentives to say no and experimental. So there is a magic word, and that magic words are medically necessary. And when you start using it and you ensure that your specialist starts using it, then one can get access to many tests. Otherwise, they will not approve those tests. In my case, I already explained to you in my chapter number 1 my colonoscopy experience about being preventative to diagnostic and having getting to charge $3,700, but I still negotiated, called to make sure that I don't have to pay for it. Even though it went to collections, I still fought for it. For many people who have more severe or acute conditions than I have, may require many more tests. And using these magical words, medically necessary, and ensuring that your specialist using it can reduce a lot of bills and cost for you. And we are already fighting our symptoms. We're already stressed about our disease. We don't want to add cost to our stress. So use the magical words medically necessary. The fifth fundamental truth is that our digestive system has its own rhythm. I talk about in detail how I cured my constipation by becoming scientist of our own body. I think we need to be that. When you start recording, tracking, monitoring, and then we start looking at the patterns, then we can identify what are the trigger foods, environmental factors, lifestyle factors, and any other things that we do starts our symptoms. And it's essential to learn and understand those patterns so that we can A, avoid those trigger, and B, when we talk about treatment plans, we know that what works and what doesn't work. And that is absolutely necessary. And when we have the record of what works, what doesn't work, the trigger points, and how severe are the symptoms, and so on, it is actually easy for our specialists or doctors to diagnose and also evaluate treatment plans and also recommend different tests. So we definitely got to understand that our digestive health has own rhythm, and we got to be the scientist of our own body to understand everything. That fundamental truth is the most important truth, that we can control our health, we own our health, and we can make a difference, and we can prevent it, we can reverse it, and we can actually get the right treatment and diagnosis when we understand our own rhythm. With this, we have come to the end of our chapter 5 Fundamental Truths about navigating the US healthcare system. A, your primary care doctor may have a limited knowledge. B, your you need to have the right specialist. 3, you got to fight like an MMA fighter. 4, insurance companies have the incentives to say no. 5, your digestive health has a rhythm. So understand that. Our next chapter that we are going to talk about is about how to optimize our doctor's visit. And two previous chapters, 10 surprising facts and 5 fundamental truths, are going to be a foundational to help understand that. And in the next chapter, we will talk about how we can optimize our visit to our doctors. Stay tuned.